Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, no COVID restrictions at the State House. Also, Mo Brooks doesn't want to go head-to-head with Katie Britt. And Mike Hubbard wants out of prison early.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up.
Don't let that be Alabama justice system. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys. Hey, Josh.
Well, you know, as my old pappy used to say, the gall. And I'm thinking the gall of former Speaker of the House, current felon, to ask that he get out of his prison sentence a year early is just, I don't know how you become more narcissistic than he is. But prison has not taught him a thing, Josh. He is still the same lying, cheat, crook that he's always been, with a dose of little narcissism, I think. A whole big dose, right?
Well, yeah, it's a little bit of self-entitlement. There's no doubt there. But listen, Mike Hubbard is really sorry that he got convicted.
He's
Sorry, he got caught.
Yeah, he's very, very sorry that he got convicted. And that the crime's not so much, but the conviction, he's really sorry about that.
Yeah.
Listen, he's already getting out 2 years earlier than he should anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So, I don't understand why this is a thing. I really don't. I don't understand why this is a letter going to somebody, to a judge. Why it's a news story out there that because he has no entitlement at all to get out early. He has no chance for parole. That's what everybody said. There's no way for him to get out early out of this sentence. But what worries me is usually in this state.
Right.
When something is taking place that you're going, what? That doesn't make any sense. Some real shadiness is about to go down.
I mean, Susan, a jury in Lee County, his home, convicted him of 12 counts of felony ethics violations. A jury saw it. They heard it. They reached testimony. The Court of Criminal Appeals, after almost 2 years, decided that one count should go away. So now we were down to 11. But the Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, was able to find that, 5 of those were not accurate on technicalities. But the sentence of 48 months and 8 years probation stayed in place until Judge Walker sliced it in half. Now Hubbard wants it sliced in half again. If he does, this shows that there is no integrity in the courts in Alabama. We already know that, but this is proof positive.
Yes, and on Thursday, Attorney General Steve Marshall filed an objection saying that the reasons that he gave for wanting to get out did not justify letting him out because he was convicted. He himself was the man that committed the crimes that he is asking to be let out on now. So he's got an objection to it. So if they go through with it, it's even stinkier than we think.
Because if Steve Marshall is against it, generally, he's never seen a white politician that he wanted to prosecute if they were a Republican.
Exactly.
Yeah, and thank God he didn't have to prosecute this one. He just got to keep this one in jail, which he's doing a pretty poor job of so far. But but really not his fault. Honestly, this is not Steve Marshall's game that is being played here. This is other people's games, and it's it's the courts have become so partisan here. And you listen, I don't care which side you're on, Democrat, Republican. If there is a comparable state court in some Democratic-run state that is as compromised as our Supreme Court in this state is for Republicans, then that's a problem, because it shouldn't be that way. Once you achieve that level, you got to follow the laws, and you got to stop bending things to placate a party agenda. And that's what's happening here in this state, is they're placating a party agenda more so than they're following precedent that has been set.
They did not want to see Mike Hubbard in jail, because if you look at all those men on the court and on the Supreme Court, they are all like Mike Hubbard. They're all like Mike Hubbard was worth $7 million when he was indicted, Susan, but he wanted more.
He wanted more. That's not uncommon for people like that. That's why they get in the position that they're in. Maybe if he had said he wanted to get out early to help them, advise them on the prison bill.
Oh God! He said that he wanted to restore public trust and politics. No, Mike, you proved that you can't be trusted. There we go.
He does have a unique perspective on the prison bill. I'd say that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. But you know what? He has not been doing hard time.
No.
He is watched over like a baby up there in Limestone. Anyway, it's just crazy. We got about 2 minutes. I want to get to. Speaker Mac McCutcheon last week announced that he expected the special session to cover prisons to be at the end of this month or the beginning of October. And Josh, I keep hearing that the Republicans have, they're on board with it. Amazingly, they're going to spend $400 million of COVID money on it. But that the Democrats are having some problems with it now. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, I think, the Democrats have always had a problem with this, because the issues with the prison bill don't address the issues with the prisons. It's nice to build the prisons, okay? It's a positive step that should be a part of a plan to address a lot of the problems. And the problem that a lot of Democrats have is that you're not addressing most of those problems. You're also then trying to use COVID money. You want to use $400 million of COVID money, and they're hopeful they can use another $200 million on top of that. So there are problems throughout this state that we all know $600 million could address better than putting them into prisons.
Yeah. And the thing that bothers me, Susan, you and I have talked about this, is that, okay, let's say that building the prisons are a good idea. Let's just give them that. It's a good idea. All right. But what about, if you're going to put $400 million into prisons, how about putting $200 million or $400 million into rural health care? I mean, that's something that really would help a lot of people.
Especially during these times right now. I mean, UAB has had to open another COVID facility for vaccinations. And, I mean, if anybody needs desperate money right now, it's the healthcare system.
Yes. I mean, Josh, if you're in rural Alabama, your chances of dying are greater than if you live in a more populated area like Huntsville, Madison, places like that, because you have health care there. There isn't anything in rural Alabama that's equivalent.
No, some people are driving more than an hour. If you have a heart attack, you're having to drive more than an hour to an ER.
If the ER is not full.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you can even get a bed at the place there. So how about $800 million or so for rural health care, or just expand Medicaid. Crazy. I know.
It's an election year. That'll never happen. But I think everyone should be able to get on board. If we're going to spend $400 million on prisons, let's spend at least $2 to $4 million on healthcare. We'll leave it right there. You're watching The voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
Remember this number. This is what Alabama loses every day because our legislators haven't passed a gaming and lottery bill. And this one. This is what we'll send to other states this year alone. $700 million that could be invested in our economy and children's future. And here's one more. 1-855-GAMING-1. This is the number to call your legislator and tell them the time to pass a gaming and lottery bill is now.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Your career isn't a job, it's a journey. Your next job could lead to bigger things, and you're in charge of how fast and how far you want to go. At alabamaworks.com, you can connect with employers and start working right now. Then chart your path forward with training and career planning tools. That next paycheck is great, but it's only the beginning. Start a great success story at alabamaworks.com.
Welcome back to The Beat, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, redistricting is going to be a big deal. I mean, the Republicans are in charge of redistricting, and they're going to redistrict it so that it's going to favor Republicans, except in a few places, and that's all legal. I can say that it's not moral or ethical, but they're going to do it. But the League of Women Voters, which is not a partisan group, they think that the counties should not be split up. That, you know, these counties should be left whole so that they can represent the constituents.
Yeah, and there's a good point in that, like Montgomery, I think, has got 3 districts involved in that, Montgomery County. Jefferson County is split into multiple districts, as well as Tuscaloosa. Now, these are big population centers, and that should be deciding things for themselves, but yet they're dividing them up into small little pieces to break down the voting blocks in those areas.
I mean, Josh, if you broke up, if you left Jefferson County and Montgomery County whole, you know what? You wouldn't have Republicans representing those counties.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, well, you know, here's the thing: you could do it. You could still split up Montgomery and Jefferson County, but also give a full representation to all of the other counties. Or to all 67 counties. Make sure that they all have representation there, and then you could still divide up the larger counties and the larger population areas. It is, you know, the League of Women Voters are 100% correct in this, but it'll never happen, and we all know why it'll never happen, because when we go through redistricting, they are going to line this thing up for, you know, to the benefit of Republicans, and they're going to minimize the impact that Democratic and black voters have in this state by packing them into districts the way that they have done the last several times. And they'll say that it is a reflection of the overall population when we get to, you know, with the actual numbers of Democrats or black legislators that are in the legislature, and they'll say, you know, they'll hide behind that. But in reality,
that's a
what
lie.
they've done, it is a lie. Well, it's not necessarily a lie by sheer number, but what it does is it squeezes everybody into these districts, and then you have no crossover voting or no influential voting in these other districts, and that leaves us with people standing on the State House steps saying that we got to worry about yoga and the 3-headed beast, and that's where we get this crazy nonsense from.
Well, my thing is this: if you look at every governor's race since basically since Bob Riley, because it was pretty even when he ran against Siegelman. Right. Some people would even say Bob Riley lost, but.
Yeah. A lot of people would, yes.
It's 40%. It's over 40% of the people vote for Democrats. So we can safely say that 40% of the state of Alabama leans Democratic,
yes,
and 60%. So it's not equal representation by any stretch, because you have, if you live in a certain district, you have only one choice.
Right.
You only have one choice.
What I meant is because really your only recourse through the courts is based on race. So when you go to a court to try to challenge this, you look at the racial components that are there, and they have masterfully, I will say very smartly, made it to where the representation of black lawmakers in the legislature is, conducive to what we have as the numbers throughout the state. And so they claim that then is the representation numbers that are deserved among Democrats. But we all know that's phony. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And we assume that anyway, we got to move on.
Yeah, it's a bad way. It's a bad way to do things.
One of the things that I thought was brilliant, Josh, you did a story this week in which the State House will have no COVID restrictions except wear a mask if you're not vaccinated, but they can't check or ask if you're vaccinated.
That's right. That's right.
They did it
That's
to
correct.
themselves.
Yeah. So good luck, guys. I mean, because every single one of you, for the most, I mean, like 90% of you guys are in the at-risk categories there. So it's, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, Susan, can you imagine going and getting the State House and all the people that are there in one place, and you got one guy says, "Oh, I'm vaccinated, baby, I'm good."
Yeah, no,
Super
I
spreader.
wouldn't get anywhere near that petri dish. There's just no way.
It's
No.
just insane.
And I'm vaccinated, so
Yeah.
I
because
still
listen,
wouldn't go
let me-
near it.
I think that for the most part, our lawmakers are going to be okay, and because I think most of them have been vaccinated, they'll
They
probably
have.
all wear masks and try to keep themselves safe. But they're going to have the true believers roll in there from all these little groups that come up to
Yeah.
lobby them, and those
Yeah,
folks
they
aren't
sure are.
vaccinated, and they're not wearing masks.
No.
Yep,
and they don't care.
They got one floor to cram into in both chambers, and they're
Yep.
going to be shoulder to shoulder. And I'm telling you, this is another super spreader event, folks.
If I were a lawmaker, I'd have a hazmat suit.
No doubt.
Well, now we just said that Steve Marshall did something that was very good, blocking Mike Hubbard's thing.
Well, he always does something to counteract
And
that.
he has counteracted that by saying that Alabama will sue the federal government to block the federal mandate as proposed, as ordered by President Joe Biden. Josh, I don't think this goes anywhere, but we love to spend millions of dollars on lawsuits that don't matter.
And then we
Yeah.
don't have any money.
Yeah,
no
we're
matter what.
we're probably not actually going to sue. We're just going to sign on to somebody else's lawsuit. Whatever the rag of people send out to them. But it's not going to go anywhere because you look at the law and there's precedent for this. And Steve Marshall was pressed during an interview on a Montgomery TV station this week about the Supreme Court ruling in another case from 1905, and he essentially admitted that case is probably going to serve as precedent for our government to be able to mandate. And it's not really a vaccine mandate. It's a mandate for either you get a vaccine or you get weekly tested. And so, that's where we are. They're not going to be able to do this because of that precedent that's there. However, what they're going to try to do is attack it based on how it's being implemented through OSHA. I don't think that they have a lot of legs to stand on there either.
But it really more political than anything. We have a vaccine that would save people's lives, Susan.
Yeah, we do. And we have several of them that save people's lives every day. And, I mean, folks, this is not, when we're talking about going on a ventilator, we're not talking about going into, somewhere where you've got an oxygen mask on. We're talking about invasive, down your throat, into your lungs, big machines, beeping all the time. You can't even talk. You've got a giant thing down your throat.
You have to be sedated.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just out of it because it's so painful.
Yeah.
But
Well,
again, I don't know what you do because if people want to be ignorant, they're going to be ignorant. And, it's this, the old saying, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I figure we should just hold them down and vaccinate them. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V. That's my mandate. We'll be right back.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
If you've been working, you've already proven yourself in ways you may not even notice. Managing your time, communicating effectively, and working as part of a team are key skills that employers value. At alabamaworks.com, you can find out how to build on your experience to up your game and get the job you really want because it's out there. Start your new success story at alabamaworks.com.
Sponsored by Alabama Works, the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, you wrote about this week. Alabama has mandatory vaccines. We mandate vaccines for kids as young as kindergarten all the way through high school. At least 11 vaccines that they have to take.
Yes. Yep. Believe me, I've been in the room. It's a very unpleasant experience to take your infant and because you started about 3 months and you start getting them vaccinated against these terrible diseases that we used to have in this country, which we no longer have, or we have in very limited cases because we've implemented these vaccines, and so we don't have these things spreading throughout our communities anymore and killing thousands upon thousands of children. Rubella, for example, was killed 11,000 babies, unborn babies, in 1 year in the 60s before we developed the vaccine. And so, yeah, you know what? We go in and you do this, and your children look at you like you have betrayed them, to no end, and you hate it, and it's the worst experience that you have. But if they want to go to school, it's the law in this state. And not only is it the law, we have very few exemptions for that law. We have a religious one and a medical one, and that's a wrap.
My brother had polio at 3 years old. Now he's 20 years older than me, but by the time I came up, we had the polio vaccine. Now the kids also have to take diphtheria, tetanus, I can't pronounce that, measles, mumps, rubella, influenza, type B, polio, chickenpox. I mean, these are exciting. I'm not sure why the coronavirus or the COVID.
Go to your school board and protest kids getting these vaccines to see how that works out for you.
Yeah, the tetanus shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
No,
I want my kid to have tetanus. Just doesn't. What are we doing?
Susan,
I've had chickenpox. I don't want children to have chickenpox.
No, Susan, you brought up. We were talking earlier, and how many deaths we've had in just less than 2 weeks here in Alabama.
Yeah, it's something like around 500.
Yeah.
In around 10 days. I mean, that is not out there yet, but the information is coming, so it's pretty rapid, and it's really bad.
I mean, I talked to one professional and said, the reason why our ICU beds are loosening up because people are dying. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons they're loosening up a bit. But we still aren't going to do anything about it. But 1 in 5 Americans have died from COVID-19. Those of you who don't believe in math or think that people lying to you, I don't know what to say to you. But 1 in 5, Josh, think about that. That's so many.
Yeah, 1 in 500, right? 1 in 500 Americans have now died.
That's what I meant. 1 in 500.
I mean, it's just, that's a staggering figure to think about. And what's even more staggering is if you look at the numbers on things versus vaccinated and unvaccinated people. It is the difference in getting that vaccine is so astonishing when you look at illness, hospitalizations, ICU, deaths. It's crazy. Look at the school districts. The school district in San Francisco has had. Just go look at their numbers because they've achieved some 80% of eligible students have been vaccinated in the San Francisco school system, and look at what their numbers are compared to ours. Just compare.
Yeah.
Just compare those numbers. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Well, those San Francisco liberals, they believe in vaccinating their kids.
Yeah, right. They like for their kids to live. Bunch of liberals.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, we're a conservative state, but it doesn't mean we have to be stupid. It just doesn't mean it.
We're just
But
doing what we're known for.
Speaking of,
It's the brand.
I know, right?
Speaking of somebody who God protect us from him representing us in the U.S. Senate, Mo Brooks, Susan, we hear, fears to go head-to-head with Katie Britt. Linda Blanchard, who's running for Senate. There's been talk of her running for governor, or maybe Secretary of State, or some other office. She is not. She said she's praying about this. But Mo Brooks has been pushing for her to stay in behind the scenes. He wants her to stay in because he thinks she'll peel off votes from Katie Britt.
I think it's probably the opposite. I think she'll peel off votes from Mo Brooks. But if I were Mo Brooks up against Katie Britt, I would be shaking in my boots, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, I just don't see. I think she can go head-to-head with him and it'll be fine in the primary. Mm-hmm. I think Linda Blanchard's a really nice woman. I want all the best for her. She's out there running for the right reasons. But again, I think if you look at traction, Katie's got the traction right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on Linda Blanchard. She's everybody I talk to says she's very nice and very likable, and but I don't. she's not gaining any ground on anybody from
Yeah.
what I can tell, and I think she's probably better served in a different race if her interest remains in politics. And
Yeah.
but to me, the idea that you would choose Mo Brooks over Katie Britt is such. I mean, really, I don't. Well, but honestly. The guy that delivers my mail, I would choose him over Mo Brooks, and I don't even know that guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
but I know Mo Brooks, and so I feel like I got a better shot with the guy delivering the mail.
It was funny this week, last week, everybody's trying to, blame Biden for this and that and the Afghan withdrawal, which every withdrawal from war seems to be, fraud.
It's always a disaster.
But the thing is, people have been very supportive of the Afghanis that we have brought back, the Afghanis who helped America during that war, were faithful foot soldiers and helping in various ways. Mo Brooks is now worried that having so many foreigners in the country could potentially be very
I
dangerous.
can see where his problem is with that because he doesn't understand the word loyalty.
Yeah.
These people were loyal to us
Yeah,
during
Yeah.
the war, and
Yeah.
now he thinks they're going to come over here and turn on us.
yeah.
He needs to look that word up.
Josh, are you shocked that Mo Brooks is worried that some maybe tanner skinned people than he is are here?
Yeah, no. The fact that he has a problem with a non-white person is the least surprising news I've heard today. I mean, it's literally. I mean, it's honestly. I guess what his problem is that for him to remain elected in elected office, he's got one trick, and it is convincing white people that they have somehow or another suffered some grievance or some something has been put on them that has caused them undue suffering here. And if you have foreign people coming over who have actually suffered and who have actually been under some sort of tyrannical government, it's just they don't buy it. They don't buy that nonsense, and so if that doesn't sell for him, he's got nothing else. He's done nothing else in his whole time in Congress.
Well, I don't know where Mo Brooks' people come from, but they were immigrants. He wasn't not native to this country. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.